Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Marvel's The Defenders Season 1, Episode 2. It's called Mean Right Hook. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, it wasn't all four at the end of the episode, but it was two pairs, and that's how we ended it.
It's close enough.
It is close enough. Oh no, I was fine with it because again, it's funny because much like the first episode, it was getting to the point where I'm like, this is quite late on. It doesn't really feel like they're all about to converge.
Right, and then it didn't.
And then it did. Well, it did.
In a way. Well, it did and it didn't.
It did it enough. Like I don't think
No.
this was by far enough. Like I was laughing hysterically as Danny was trying to do his kung fu shit on Luke, and it was just doing nothing.
When Luke was basically just bitch slapping him to the ground, I was there basically cheering.
Oh, it was so good. So that was fun, and obviously I knew how it was going to end. It was going to end with the Iron Fist activating and giving him a proper hit. Like, but that's fine. Like I expect that. That's okay. And obviously we end in the Daredevil Jessica first time interaction.
Honestly, I thought the ending was really weird. Like, it just stopped. Like it just he comes in and he says this thing, and then the episode just ends. I was like, wait, that was the end of the episode?
Yeah, I'm your attorney. Come back next time and see how that
I don't
progresses.
know. It just
didn't bother
it felt
me.
like it ended really suddenly to me.
No, I get it. I get the moment that it's leaving on. I can defend that a bit. Not to say I'm a defender or anything.
No, I heard you say that. I was like, don't you dare make a bloody comment about that.
Okay, so I want to talk about Iron Fist first, right? Because obviously, again, it's mostly separate. It's mostly split up into the various plots. I will say this, right? So Iron Fist really had two scenes. I mean, the second one was split up a lot till it got to Luke Cage, but the first one where they're at Colleen's dojo, and she's in checking for damage and whatnot, and I thought, okay, now some of this scene is annoying in the Iron Fist way because he's kind of annoying. Like, she presents him with a lead. She's like, here, this sword could only have been made here. Let's look into it. And instead of saying, oh yeah, it's worth checking out, he goes, but what if it leads to nothing? He's so negative. He's such a downer. It's like, you've been offered a fairly valid... I mean, she said there's only 10 of these in the world. This one place might have made it, and the guy said go to New York. Like, this is fairly reasonable.
It's better than nothing.
Yes.
Honestly, my bigger problem with that scene was her going, hey, we need a team. We should go find some people.
It was a bit on the nose, yeah.
It felt like...
I like the start of it. I like when she said he was fighting the hand and that means we're not alone. That was enough. That was like a nice little,
Right, I liked that.
That was the theme of, like, maybe we will have allies, and that was enough. But then she went really specific and went, oh, we could get a team together.
The idea of actively seeking a team just felt a bit much.
Yeah, that went a bit too far. But this is the thing I'll say about that scene, though. And it made it more bearable than most of Iron Fist's actual show. It was actually directed. As much as we said in the last review that they all seem to keep their own styles from their own shows for the direction, I actually think Iron Fist is the exception because Iron Fist didn't have a style. So the director of those segments is like doing stuff with it. And I was appreciating there's a lot of beams of light in his stuff. There was a lot of Dutch angles during this scene. It really gave it like a feel. And it was like, as much as I'm not really liking the conversation, it was doing more with it. Yeah.
I will call it my one problem with the style of it. You know how we talked about all of them have their colours, like all of Matt's scenes are tinted, they're reddy orange, Jessica's a purple, Luke's a yellow.
Yeah.
Why is Danny's blue? Like, his colour's green. We know that. Even in in the opening title, when their figures pop up, he's green. But his scenes are all really overly blue.
I think it's just a natural thing. Like, I think all the other ones you can explain. Right, yellow's street light, right? So you can kind of get away with it. Red, you've got traffic lights, you've got neon signs, a lot of red there. Jessica's aren't as purple as like those other colours are theirs. Like, Jessica is actually quite neutral for the most part.
It is, but then there's times like it was, like the ending of episode 1 where it was like, oh, this is really purple.
Whereas green's really hard to do naturally. Whereas blue works really well because daylight's blue. So
I get it. It just seems like it sticks out because it doesn't stick with the theme.
Sure. I mean, it's not a big problem with me.
It doesn't look bad. I'm not saying that.
His stuff is visually way more distinct than his own show ever was. Like, see when they go to this is that blacksmith that makes katanas, or was there a more specific word? I think there was a more specific word, but when they go into this guy's place and they go into the back room and they find all these dead bodies, the camera is actually doing some really nice stuff. It's all one shot and it's doing all this circular movement around him as he's looking around the bodies. The way it's moving around
is really nice.
Yeah, and then there's these light shafts going through the window. There's like boards up in the window, so there's all these little light shafts coming in, and it looks quite nice. So even though like he's still easily the weakest character and I don't like him as much, at least his stuff is visually a lot more interesting than it was last season. And when these guys come in and they start spraying like the acid or whatever on the bodies to like, I mean, I thought they were being a little bit dumb because I thought it was really obvious what they were doing.
I don't know. I thought they were dousing it in like gasoline or something and then going to set the place on fire.
Oh no, because there was a close-up shot like the hand like melting, and it was to me it was clear that they were just concealing their identity. They were like getting rid of the faces and the hands because that's what you identify someone. So to me it was pretty clear. So I thought it was a little bit stupid how like Danny turns to her and goes, "What are they doing? I don't know."
They clearly can't see that hand as well as we can.
Fair. And I thought the little fight when he comes out wasn't particularly great, but it did have two good moments. I did like Colleen coming out and saying, "Hey, asshole." That was kind of amusing. And I liked how the second guy didn't notice that it happened behind him. So he turns around and then notices there's a guy who's beat up the other one, and he's like, "Oh," and he runs off. Like, there was a couple of fun little moments, even if the fight itself wasn't that exciting.
It wasn't awful, though. And like, it's the sort of moment where... So, like, Colleen's stuff was fine. Her stuff was typically better anyway. And when Danny chased after that one guy, he's not trying to knock him out and beat him up. He's trying to get information, so it doesn't need to be as good.
He needs to dial it back, because I actually kind of cringed when he screamed out, "Are you the hand?" That really cracked me up, that line.
He has no filter, does he?
No, he just yells what he's thinking. I mean, I guess it's the character, but it's kind of annoying. But like I say, I'm actually like, his stuff was A, it was limited, B, it was well shot. So for the most part, it wasn't actually bothering me too much in this episode.
I agree.
And I actually think, we actually looked ahead at the episode time, because one of the big problems with Iron Fist is that almost every episode seemed to want to be over 55 minutes. They were all in that range. This one was only 45 minutes. It feels like, okay, this episode didn't need to be as long, so they kept it a bit tighter. It felt like it was moving quicker. Good.
Yeah, we were obviously optimistic because it was only 8 episodes instead of 13. And even the Netflix like Marvel series that we've liked have all had a pacing problem over the season.
Yeah, I mean, like the two strongest seasons would be season ones are both Daredevil and Jessica Jones, and both of them have like their weak spots in the sort of
9 to 11 range.
Yeah, so it's always in that range, isn't it? It's just that right there.
Just stilts where they don't know quite what to do for a couple of episodes.
And I think they both suffer from this weird thing as well, where okay, it gets better for the last couple, but it never reaches the heights of the first like 8.
It just loses. It's lost the momentum, and it just kind of staggers over the finish line because of it.
Yeah, so it's a real shame it does that. So hopefully this bucks that trend, because it is a tighter 8 episodes, and
Yeah, and even episode to episode, like we were saying, like they're knowing what they need to be. They're not padding them out for the sake of it, like Iron Fist was.
Which is good. So we'll go to Luke Cage next, because they obviously intersect when we get there.
Yeah.
Luke Cage is still looking to this thing. He talks to Claire about it. Fun little bit. He's like picking up some rubble off one of the cars. All superhuman.
Rubble kind of doesn't really do it justice.
Okay, it's the corner of a building, but like same difference. And he's like, okay, I need to get information, and it leads him to a bar where we see Turk, who's one of these other characters who's been popping up in most of the shows. Was he in Jessica Jones? That's the only one I think he wasn't in.
I'm not sure.
Or was he in
It's been a while since I've lost.
He was definitely in both Daredevil and Luke Cage.
Definitely, yeah.
I feel like he was in one of the other ones as well, but I can't quite remember. But so we see him. He gives a bit of information, which leads to... So the guy who's hiring these kids who are doing this weird extra job wears a white suit and a white hat. He's got a bit of a pimp look to him. He's very, very pimping.
Yeah.
And he sees him, but he also sees the kid he talked to last episode, which, because he's telling Misty about it, and he's like, you know what, forget that. I'm going to go and superhero myself.
He doesn't want the police to catch this kid.
Yeah, I'm taking care of business myself. And I actually really liked how this intersected with Iron Fist story, because he chases after the guy, and again, he's wearing this hazmat suit because he's spraying the acid around, and he catches him. He takes the thing off, and you see it's that guy. And like, oh, that's a cool way to mix these, because I didn't see that coming.
It's a smart way of having them come together, because we know Luke was chasing him, and this brings Danny into that plot. So it's like, okay, that works.
We've seen that kid leaving the van, So he wasn't wearing the hazmat suit at the time, but he left in a van, and here, of course, the van's here.
Right.
And as soon as Danny goes to punch him again, Luke's just behind him and catches his elbow, and that's it. Right, that we've got these two together, and we get to the fight scene. And of course, they play off Danny, of course, overconfident, and Luke just stands there and takes everything he's got to dish out. I actually really appreciated the little moment where the kid tries to run mid-fight, and Danny kind of scoots on over and just trips him. It's like he's aware of it. It's actually it's smarter than I think I ever saw him be in the fights in his own show.
Right, he had some like situational awareness.
Yeah.
For the first, like you say, it's probably the smartest thing he's ever done. Like, hey, you're my lead. You ain't going anywhere.
It's like he's been aware. He's tackled him, and then back to the
and I
obvious
like that
threat.
the kid tried to run. He was like, "Hey, they're distracted. I'm gonna go."
Yeah. Also, it made sense exactly.
Right.
Of course, Luke eventually gets punched with the Iron Fist power. Cops show up and they both kind of dodge off. Away. Dodge off's not really a phrase. I just coined it. I'm happy with it.
That'll do.
Yeah. Get out of dodge is what I think I was trying to say, but I liked how I said it anyway. So we have that. So let's jump over to Daredevil, who had the opening of the episode, and I actually really liked the opening. I was really into it. You get the sort of the aftermath of like some of the like what we later found out did just happen like an earthquake. There's more to it than that, but that's at least what everyone perceives it as.
Yeah.
And I love that the shot that we start on. It feels again. It just remember how Iron Fist felt really low budget compared to the other shows. And here we start with this shot that's like looking down the street, and it sort of like goes under and like tilts under, and then eventually it goes all the way up to the roof, and you see Matt just on the corner, like crouched, all Batman-y, and he's listening.
It's style, isn't there?
Yeah, it's style, and I think what I love about it is even though we're seeing stuff as the camera's moving, it's focusing on the sound. Even though we're seeing things, we hear the sirens, we hear screams, we hear all these various things, and then when it gets to him, it all clicks because it's like that's what he's hearing, that's what he's listening for. And I especially love how he's hearing all these things. He hears there's some sort of robbery going on, and he actually turns away. He walks away as if he's just going to let it happen, and then he hears the gun getting cocked. He hears the shotgun, and that's when he's like, "No."
Do you know what? The only thing I didn't like, maybe I'm a little bit underwhelmed by this scene, is I almost wanted him to fail, not get there in time, and
yeah, I can see
then
that.
to play into his whole guilt thing again. It'd be like if he'd just gone down, he could have saved her, but because he waited till he heard the gun cock, it was too late.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you're going to play it, because obviously when we get the later scene with Fog, he's still in this weird. He's trying to avoid it, and he kind of helped. Because the funny thing is, he ends up not shooting or not beating up the criminal. It's actually it's the guy who owns the store who's trying to shoot them that he ends up doing more damage to.
Yeah.
And he does actually, maybe punch him one or two times more than he really needs to. He gets a little bit violent. And it ties back into this whole idea that he does have this thirst for it. I love the final shot as well as he's walking down the alleyway.
Where it's all sideways.
It's all sideways, and it's like his world's literally flipped right now. He doesn't feel upright, and it's just raining, and there's just all this pouring rain. It's style. Like,
it's gorgeous, isn't it?
And again, and I hate to keep comparing it to Iron Fist, but Iron Fist had zero style.
Right, this is it. It's a problem just because that's the most recent one, so that's why it's the freshest comparison. Even though, like Jessica Jones had style, Daredevil had style, Luke Cage had style.
Yeah, all different styles, but they all had style.
Right, but Iron Fist, because it's the most recent, it's the one we think of first.
Which is fine.
It's our most recent impression, isn't it?
And I think it's why his scenes that now suddenly have some style on them stand out, because it's... And I think the whole idea of the sweeping camera that goes in circles, like if that's something they can maybe continue with him, that kind of works, because the whole idea that martial arts is meant to be fluid. So if you give him a more fluid style like that...
Yeah, I like it, because, I mean, Jessica's is very quick cut in. It's kind of showing, the eccentricity... It's not coming out, is it?
Eccentricity?
Thank you. And, like it's very paranoid.
I would argue it's also emulates her drunken state that she's usually in, perhaps.
Yeah.
Haphazard. Luke's got more of the sort of the hero, low-angle cowboy shot.
Definitely.
That's kind of his thing. Urban Western is kind of what we called his show when it was on. And for the most part it was. It got a little bit weird with Diamondback later on, but that was kind of what it is. But so style. And we see like he has that moment where he opens the trunk and he's just like, and what I love about this is he can't actually see the suit, but we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's
nice.
like, and I love that before that he gets mad at himself because he's trying to patch up his knuckles and he ends up just like throwing them off the table and like punching it. And I liked it there. I felt like he was pissed that he even went out. Like, because maybe that's the counterpoint to your maybe mild complaint that he, like, you thought he maybe should have got there too late. It's not so much that he got there too late, it's that he got there and he didn't really need to. Like, maybe it would have been okay if he didn't step in.
Yeah.
Like he felt the need to, but, like, I mean, sure, maybe he stopped that criminal getting shot, maybe he didn't. It's hard to say. But, like, he's mad at himself for even going. Like, he gave in to the contempt. It's almost like an alcoholic who's, like, touched the bottle again. Except in this case, there's actually a noble reason for him to do it, but certainly there's parallels there. And Connor's having weird, demented sneezes.
Hay fever. Sorry.
So that's the whole thing. So yeah, Foggy calls him, and I love that. It's as he's got the trunk open. He's looking at the suit, maybe going, maybe I should go back to this life. That the phone, because obviously he's blind, so his phone sort of ringtone says the name of the person. So it's like Foggy, and I love that because Foggy's like, he was always against it. He hated that Matt did this. This was what drove a wedge between them. It was like,
and that's where we ended his last season on, was the two of them kind of driven apart by this.
So the idea that he's looking at that and then he gets a phone call from the person who, you know, was against it is actually a really nice little touch. And at least they're seeing in the bar where Foggy wants him to, like, be on the straight and narrow, wants to still be friends. It feels like they're maybe kind of patching things up a little bit. I mean, it's all a bit awkward. They've clearly not seen each other in a while, but he's being friendly. He gives them a bunch of cases. Like, you know, they've got too much to handle. And it even spells out why. He's like, this'll keep you busy. You won't have time to go and beat up people.
And I like that, you know, when he mentions the knuckles, he's like, look, I know what you did.
Yeah.
And Matt kind of flips out and starts leaving. At first it seems like an overreaction, but then it's like, you know, he's angry at himself.
Yeah, he's angry at himself. I think he's also angry at the idea that Foggy just came to
berate him.
Yeah, because even at one point when he says, I can't remember what line it was, but there was a line where I was like, oh, Foggy, do you have, like, kind of, not nasty intentions, but more self-serving intentions, perhaps, than what it seemed. But I don't think he did. I think this is a genuine, like, reach. Again, to compare it to, like, an alcoholic, it's someone, like, making sure you're on the wagon kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, like, how that, like, comes across to the alcoholic who's like, oh, you're being a buzzkill and you want to, like, take away my thing. Like, it almost feels like that a little bit to the audience because we want him to be Daredevil. Because of course we do.
Yeah. Exactly. But he is just trying to keep him busy, and, you know, like I says, he brings cases that are ones that Matt would do anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's just trying to get him to do things for the sake of it that don't fit with his personality. And
I like that line as well. You can be a hero another way. Like, he actually says that line. It's like, you know, this is still doing good things. Like, and we've already seen him help a disabled kid. Like, you know, so he's clearly still doing good things. He's not. It's not like. Yeah, I mean, that's why the alcoholic like analogy doesn't really quite work, because obviously there's a lot of reasons why it's different. But at least those core ideas I brought up are kind of why I said it.
It works just about.
So that was basically it. He didn't show up again till the end, I don't think, after that.
No, I don't think he did.
Jessica, of course, she calls in the police for this C4, which brings Misty Knight and her colliding. I like that some of the side characters are kind of interacting, because we've already seen Foggy with Luke Cage, now we're seeing Misty with Jessica. It's interesting to see them, like, pair off in different ways like that. And Jessica's being Jessica. She's, like, telling the cop that she's talking to, you know, piss off, you know, don't want anything to do with them. And she steals a bit of evidence on the way out, which pisses off Misty. And we see her looking into this. We get a little bit of, like, building as to, like, just how far back this goes, because she's looking into this company, and they kept changing names and kept transferring.
Honestly, this might be my favourite sequence of the show so far.
Interesting.
I thought, again, this is the style that Jessica Jones had in its show. You know, the detective stuff. You know, just there, like the slow pace, just the montage, the music. I was like, yeah, I'm digging this.
No, I mean, I like the scene. I think I was a little bit worried at first that I was meant to be getting more information than I was, because I was really only noticing the ears, because they were nice and big, and everything else was too small to really take in. I was like, am I meant to be getting more from...
I swear one of the company ones said Toshiba. I was like...
Are they implicating Toshiba in the hand?
I think they did.
Interesting. Then again, Toshiba's just like a normal last name in Japan.
But when I caught that, I was like... Huh.
I bet there's an Easter egg in there, though. I bet there's an Easter egg that links it to another show or a movie.
Probably.
On one of the cards. I bet there'll be a company that was mentioned in something. But, Yeah, basically she talks to the women. It turns out like this whoever hired this guy or whatever, they've been changing their name so often. We assume it's the Hand at this point. Although, yeah, no, we're still assuming it's the Hand.
Yeah.
Although it gets a little bit deeper later on when it sounds like he was actually trying to stop them. Like he found out what they were doing because he says he was trying to stop them with all that C4 when we see him later on.
Yeah.
So but basically the company goes back to pre 1880 or 1820, I think it was.
1820. Yeah.
Which is where the records in this office stop, and beyond that point you have to go to the historical society. And,
yeah, the historical branch.
Yeah, which amusing. Let's not gloss over the Trish scene though, because obviously she's got a radio show. That was actually one of the cool little things in Luke Cage. We heard her radio show in that at one point.
Yeah.
But she's like taking calls about the earthquake, and someone calls in and it's like, "Oh, that wasn't an earthquake." And she kind of like I know we are like everyone's like a little bit upset and panicking and whatnot. And she's like, "No, no, no, I'm not panicking. I'm a geologist. Listen to me," which I thought was really funny. Yeah. Like it sounds like just some like nutty housewife who's like got her own opinion. It's like, no, I'm a geologist, and she brings a very interesting point. Now we know because we know that Sigourney Weaver manipulated this, that it's not a natural thing. But this kind of like plants the seed in the characters' heads because this woman says, no, no, the epicenters of earthquakes underground are like usually, was it 500 meters or something like she said? Or 500 feet. And then she's like, no, but this one was only like 30 or something like that. Like it was...
I think it was like 50 kilometers, but this was only 300 meters or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but it was that... The idea
it was a big difference.
Yeah, the idea was that this originated only like a short distance underground. Whereas... normally it would feel much lower. So I think it's interesting because especially when we get the scene with Sigourney Weaver and Madame Gao, and again Weaver. By the way, was this like a weird Ghostbusters reference? Was I the only one who was thinking this?
Which bit?
Well, she's got like this private little string quartet playing her thing, and in Ghostbusters she was a violinist. I just thought that was.
That's true.
Maybe it's just my head jumping to one of her famous roles, but
yeah.
Even though the idea it's in New York, though, it wouldn't surprise me if we have like a bit that feels almost like the tower in Ghostbusters, because she's like the.
Yeah.
Was she the key or the gatekeeper? I can't remember, but you know what I'm talking about. All that whole stuff at the end of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So no, but it sounds like they're actually trying to get in somewhere. Like there's something underground in New York City they want to get to.
Yes.
That's what the Hand are trying to get to. But they've encountered a wall, and it almost sounds like to me the earthquake might not have been like an attack. It was just a byproduct of maybe what they were doing underground, trying to get to this place.
It feels like maybe it was a defense mechanism from this door. Almost.
Maybe.
Like they tried to get in, and it fought like it kind of tried to shake them off almost.
So we're thinking, because she mentions it's a doorway, there must be a key. Are we thinking Danny's the key?
I think so, yeah. Like the way she implies, what was the thing Cunlin care about most was just presumably the Iron Fist. So presumably he just has to hit it with the Iron Fist activated. And
the question is do they prey on him because he's naive and trick him into doing it?
Probably.
And is everyone else on the Defenders going to be face palming afterwards when they find out that A let them in?
Probably. Do you know what? There's something else in this. I'm convinced now that she's been living a long time. Because
she mentions what was it? It's Beethoven. What was the one said that was the rival?
It was Brahms.
Brahms. Yeah, I was going to say Bach, but it wasn't Bach. It was Brahms. No. Yeah. Did you know that little fact or that little?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that specific fact. I knew the thing about the key signatures, and I was like, yeah, but.
I like how he's picking up on key signatures, and then I'm sitting there going, "Oh, in Ghostbusters, Sigourney Weaver was a violinist."
Yeah. When they started talking about like going in C minor, it's like, "Oh, it's a very Beethoven thing." I was like, "Yeah, interesting." I'm liking this. I like this character more and more. I'm really getting in this villain's head.
I do like her. I don't think her stuff in this episode was as interesting. Obviously, our final thing here was that she has stick. She has stick tied up underground or whatever.
But no, it was the specific line where she said, "Oh, I've picked up a few things in my time or along the way." Actually,
we got a comment on the first review about why is she worried about dying? Like, if the Hand can bring people back, like Elektra, why is she concerned about dying? And I wonder if they'll explain that as time goes on, because it's a fair point. But since she's concerned, and given that we've got...
Do the people who come back, do they just come back as normal? Because Elektra kind of seems...
like a Terminator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do they kind of lose something when they come back? And she knows that, and she doesn't want to.
Which leads us back to Jessica, actually, quite nicely. Although, I will just one final point on Alexandra and Stick. They do seem to know each other from before.
Yes.
So that's worth mentioning. So yeah, so Jessica's back to her apartment, and our neighbour, who I now remember his name is Malcolm, just took a couple of times to say it before it sunk in again.
Yeah.
But the guy she's been looking after or looking for is there, and he's got a gun to Malcolm's head, and he's worried that Jessica's working for whoever this is involved. We know it's the Hand, of course it's the Hand, but I really appreciate the close-ups in this shot. Like, I like that when it was, you know how you have over-the-shoulder shots. This was like for Jessica. It was like through the two heads with the guns, like, pointing to the guy's head.
Yeah.
So it was like that. But so you're seeing her, it's like through this little window.
Yeah, there was some great shots in this. Like one of the bits when it cut to this scene, because cutting out a couple of times.
Yeah.
One of the times where it starts just on her shadow, and you hear her talking. You're just looking at the shadow and the light, and then it pans round. I thought that looked great.
Yeah. Some good stuff. The guy. So it reveals that he was trying to stop what this was. He whatever he got into, he found out what they were planning, and it's big, whatever it is, because he was going to try and blow them up to stop it. And of course, Elektra comes in like a goddamn Terminator, and she goes to kill the guy, but he's like, "I'm not letting you have this," and he kills himself first. And I love the subtle touch that the blood hits Jessica in the face, because she's trying to get back up to like protect him and help him, because despite all her faults, she is a hero deep down. And she tries to, obviously Elektra's already whacked her like across the room, like, because Elektra is a badass fighter, and she chases after her, but she gets away, which obviously leads to Misty arresting her because she's got blood all over her face. And even if she didn't murder anyone, which she even points out, like, you don't have me here for a murder suspect, like, no, you stole evidence, you're obstructing justice, you're doing all these other things. I've got you for tons of stuff. I did appreciate the joke with the folder, like, she's like, oh, here's Malcolm's file, here's this guy's file, here's your file, poof.
And then the second one.
Poof.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
Also, just a little bit, Malcolm said, he was barely on the payroll, which implies this is after the end of.
It does.
Jessica.
It does. Yeah. That's fair. So we have this final scene. Misty's sort of questioning her, and Jessica kind of opens up, but it's like, I was just trying to protect him. It's like, well, yeah, now his family only has to worry about a funeral to plan for, and it kind of hits Jessica. You can see it in her face, like, she is kind of affected by that comment, because she did fail, even though it wasn't really her fault. Like, he just happened to be at her apartment. She didn't put him there. Like, this is where he chose to go. This was his choice to go there.
Yeah.
But like, it's just starting to get somewhere, and then, like, door, like, slams open, and in walks Matt Murdock. Stop talking, Jessica, I'm your lawyer. Cut, which for me worked as an ending, because I'm kind of excited now. I do think the two pairs works well, because it maybe is a bit more natural than having all four of them at once. And I will say, it's a good job that one of the pairs wasn't Jessica and Luke, because that would feel a little bit weak, because we've already seen them interact so much.
Right.
But don't get me wrong, it's still going to be fun when they do interact again, because so much has changed.
It seems like an easy way to link them together from here. Like, the two of them can reach out to each other.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think, obviously, Matt and Jessica are together. Luke and Danny have met, but they're not actively together, because obviously they ran away from each other, like, by the end of the other encounter. And I wonder, like, okay, what does bring everyone together? Like, obviously, the obvious answer is that Claire might be a bit of a glue here, because she's met all of them. She knows all of them. She can link them all.
Yeah, I mean, that could be it. I could see maybe Danny and Luke meeting again, still following this same thread.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then I can see Luke maybe call it, like, speaking to Jessica, and her maybe suggesting Jessica. Going like, hey, you've got friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see a lot of stuff. And I can see everyone playing into it, because, like I said, I think Misty and Colleen are going to end up teaming up. I can see Trish helping with a radio show. Like, that could be her contribution. Like, maybe they need to spread the word about something. That'll be Trish's, like, big contribution in the final act, or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Which actually reminds me, we had Hogarth in this episode as well.
Yeah.
Who goes to see Jessica, wants her to stay out of trouble, although, as Jessica kind of implies, it might be to save her own ass, because obviously Jessica and her are related through a lot of events that happened in Jessica Jones that Hogarth might not want getting out.
Yes, pretty much.
And she's the one who mentions her to Foggy, who we have to assume passed it on to Matt, which is why he showed up.
Yeah, that's the only explanation, I think.
Yeah. I will say that, do you know what I'm liking about this idea of like a whole 8 episode thing, bringing them all together? And as much as I love the Avengers, like I think Avengers is the best Marvel movie still for me. I do like this idea that because there's a lot more time in 8 episodes, that it's nice to have all these characters who have been dancing around all these shows. Like, Hogarth and Claire specifically have been in multiple shows. You have side characters meeting the main characters from other shows first before the main characters interact. It really feels a lot more like an intertwined universe rather than just...
Yeah, and it feels like... Well, again, I also love the Avengers, but this feels like a much more natural build to the meeting.
Yes.
Rather than, hey, let's just get everyone together. Which ultimately that movie is like, hey, okay, it's recruitment time.
Yeah, which is fine. It works.
It works for what it was. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. But this here is like, okay, let's build. Let's fight. Let's have them find each other naturally. So I think that's kind of working for me.
Now, I think we got the pairs at the end of this one. I do think all four will meet by the end of the third episode.
The ending. It will be the ending of the fourth
I think
one. Third one.
That might be the end of the third one. Yeah. It seems like a natural fit for it as well.
It does.
Because it makes sense. Like, end of the first episode, you introduce the main threat. End of the second episode, you have some of them actually meet and interact. You have the connections form. And then the end of the third one, I can see it either ending when they first meet, but that's kind of what they did here. So maybe they'll meet, they'll have a fight out of something. Like maybe they'll have to fight a bunch of guys. Right, that'll be the first big group fight, and then that'll be the ending to the next one.
Yeah, I can see it being like a fight at the end of it.
The hallway fight, maybe from the trailer.
That's it. Interestingly, that's typically we typically have a big fight in episode 2 now. Ever since Daredevil set that up, most of the episode 2s have had something big.
It shifted to episode 3 for season 2. To be fair,
it did. It did.
So no. There you go. That's episode 3 of Defenders.
Episode 2.
Episode 2, just because we're just talking about episode 3. Episode 2 of Defenders. Happy to say, 2 episodes in, I'm enjoying it.
Yep, me too.
I'm excited to see where it'll go. Hopefully it'll stick all the landing and the threat will feel nice and big still once we get through a lot of the meat. But I am appreciating the build. I actually think it's quite smart how they're... And this one didn't feel as meandering in the middle as the first one did. I thought the first one suffered a little bit.
I think it's like you mentioned how Matt kind of disappeared for a lot of the episode after the start. It was like the first one when, okay, we need to have a reasonable amount of everyone to reintroduce everyone, catch everyone up to speed. Whereas here it was like, no, okay, he's not needed here. We can sit him out for a bit.
Yeah. I think this one was just a little bit better paced. I thought it was stronger overall. So that's good. So let us know what you think of this episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can do that over there, but otherwise, guys, that is us. So thank you very much once again for watching. We are doing these daily, so there'll be another review tomorrow, so thank you once again. We'll see you next time. Have you got any vanilla?